Namaste. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hope you're all doing great. Today, I have an amazing live, and I have two guests. One of them is John Paul Kingston, and the other one is Jeff, my friend. So I'm going to be going live from Instagram and also YouTube. If some of you guys would like to join me on YouTube, you can do that too. Happy Thursday. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we're going to cover a few topics. I know a lot of people are starting to complain about the prices of gas and oil and everything is going up, and electricity. What's up with that? The second topic that has been very hot is about Will Smith, and we're going to see what my guests are thinking about that. What are you guys are thinking about that? And I did a reel yesterday. I said, these are all great. And what do I think? I think nothing. I think we should leave the poor guy alone. That's what I think. Because when we do something that is so out of character, good morning, Jeff.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good. Where are you at the moment?
I'm actually at my parents' place in Wildemar.
Oh, beautiful. Do you want to tell people a little bit where Wildemar is?
Yeah, I know. Where's Wildemar in the world? So if you look at a map of California, you'll see San Diego kind of south down near the Mexican border. And then you'll have Los Angeles a little bit kind of more further north in coastal. And if you go up the 15 freeway from San Diego, you'll go to Las Vegas, Nevada. And then at some point you'll hit the 10 freeway, and the 10 kind of cuts across over to Los Angeles. And of course, the 10 freeway also cuts east across the country. So if you go up the 15, you're going to hit, most people are starting to learn where Temecula is, because Temecula's gotten pretty big. And then there's a split between the 15 and the 215 freeway. Mm-hmm. And right there between those two freeways is a little community called Wildemar. On the 215, it's Murrieta, which also has got a bit of recognition to it. So it's right out here, and I think it's technically Riverside County. So that's where we are.
Okay.
Geography lesson.
That's right. Yes. I don't even exactly know where it is. So now we learned something new. Okay. So LA got really hot.
It's pretty hot out here too.
Yeah. And I heard it's going to cool down again from Saturday.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. Yes. And we were going to do Jeff and I are going to do some bike riding, because I don't know if you guys noticed or not. I bought a new electric bike, and Max, as you guys know him by now, he's a rider. He's a professional rider, and he goes almost every day for a ride. And I can't really get that. Like, these guys, they go sometimes from LA to Orange County, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's 50-70 miles to ride on a bicycle. It's pretty amazing. So anyhow, he's riding with the big boys, and I said, when am I going to get to ride with the big boys? And since I bought my bike last week, I think I ride it only once. And anyhow, because the bike is quite heavy, it's the bike weighs about 50 pounds almost.
50?
Yeah, 50. And 10 pounds of that is just the battery. It has a huge battery this big, and 10 pounds is just the battery. So I'm glad they made that for lazy people like me to to be able No, ever since I moved in with Max, because I used to live in Beverly Hills, and Beverly Hills it's so flat, 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 flat.
Ironically called hills. It's called Beverly Flats.
Beverly Flat. Yeah, that's a good point, Jeff. Why do they call it Beverly Hills when it's so flat? Anyhow, I moved into Silver Lake, and it's all hills and up and down. And the first couple of weeks, I started to feel so much pressure on my knees. So I bought a knee band to cover up my knees. But then I got a bike, and I realized that maybe it's easier to take all these like hills up there. Maybe it's easier to just get an electric bike to bring me up the hills instead of me doing it.
So what's going to happen? We're going to go for a ride up like Griffith Park, and I'm going to be working to get up the hill, and you're just going to press a button, and this
There we
just push you
go.
up the hill.
Yeah, yeah. I went on a ride the first day with Max. So, he's a pro on biking, but I could just gear up on 6 and cruise down, and I could be going faster up hills than he does. It's not fair. I know it's not fair, but anyhow. Okay. So I'm waiting for Jean Paul, and I don't think they're going to join. Oh, he's not. John Paul cannot join us. Sahar just messaged me. Okay, so he can make it. He can make it. We are actually on a total state of flow. So if he can join us, wonderful. If he cannot, then he cannot. Anywho, so let's start with the first topic that people are complaining a lot. What do you have to say about the prices of gas and oil and electricity and everything going up, Jeff?
We want to stay in a good mood or not.
Just go the direction you want to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of feel like it's a pretty ugly topic, because I tend to subscribe to the idea that multinational corporations are gigantic and powerful, and a lot of people look to government rulers and they think the government's ruling our lives. It's like, no, these giant corporations are ruling our lives, and whatever they say goes. And they get in Congress, and that's all televised or recorded and broadcast, and everything they say is just theater, because it's not going to do anything. It's like, oh, so-and-so got grilled by the Senate or by this committee. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it's not going to change anything. That's just entertainment for everybody to consume while we get hosed. It's like, now because President Biden did some things where he like shut down some reserves or opened some, whatever he did, it's like, the oil companies are in there saying, oh, well, we have to charge these sky high prices at the pump because Biden did this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, of course that's the political move, because if you accuse the president, it wouldn't matter if Trump was president. If you accuse the president, immediately you're going to throw 50% of the country off the scent, or you're going to attempt to throw 50% of the country off the scent. Like, oh, don't point the finger at us, point the finger at the person that we know you hate. And it's like, that's exactly what it is. It's like, okay, guys, well, it wasn't I think it was, I don't know if it was after 2001, 9/11, when oil, like when we went into war and oil went really expensive. I don't know if it was then or if it was 2008, but there was another time in the last, let's say, 20 years where the price of oil it hit like $150 a barrel. It was like record highs. And gas at the pump was like $4. It was like, oh my God, gas is at $4. Well, like within a year or so, the price of oil had plummeted to record lows. It was like $20 a barrel. Gas at the pump didn't come down at all. And then they're like, well, we're boasting record profits. And people are like, well, how come, the price of oil is at record lows? It's at an eighth of what it was at record highs. How come you're still charging how come you're still charging us, record prices at the pump? Oh, well, and then there's some other excuse, whatever it was then. There's always an excuse. And so they'll go into, government, they'll go into Congress, they'll get grilled by Congress, and they'll come up with some excuse. But there's no law ever passed that, what law could you pass? There's no law that's ever passed saying, you can't charge people too much at the pump. It's just, oh, well, let's get these people in, slap them around, make people feel good like we have some power, and then they go around, screwing people. It's never going to change.
Yeah. So basically, the way I look at everything going up, which I don't really have a firm opinion on it, but then again, I would ask myself, if I was in a position that I was making a lot of money and everything was orderly in my life and that stuff, would this still bother me or not? And a lot of people can say, well, it doesn't matter, even though I'm doing really well, still this is an issue for everybody. And why is this? So basically, I don't have a lot of stuff to say about this. I'm just thinking that anything that happens, any changes that happens, um, it's going to affect us individually. But while it's affecting us, me as a receiver, how am I going about it? Like, do I become hopeless, helpless, angry? Because I'm coming from a place of spirituality, I would say that I probably want to watch out um, what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling about it. And if I feel that I feel injustice, or I'm feeling helpless, or I'm feeling angry, then I would kind of work on those emotions, because after all, I know whatever I think, whatever I feel, the energy that's animating there and I'm sending it out is going to send more out to the universe. So that's the way I would go about it. But anywho, let's move to our second topic to see if you and you guys who are watching us, what is your opinion? Now I'm talking about Will Smith. Did you watch that video, Jeff?
Parts of it. I watched the video. I actually saw that little bit live. I was having dinner with a friend, and the Oscars were on the TV, so I actually watched it happen.
And what's your thought on it?
Eater. I thought it was absurd. And, I try to, unless it's really black and white, I try to reserve reaction. And I've done a pretty good job, because I feel like we're at a point now where we don't know what truth is. And I want the truth. Before I have an opinion on something, I really want the truth. And a lot of people, we're in an era where I think for a long time the wool has been pulled over our eyes by media and the narrative. And now more and more people are waking up to the idea that we're not, that's the truth, and that they need to wake up and get the truth themselves. And so if we kind of subscribe to the narrative, then depending on the motivation of the narrative, we can react a certain way that supports that negative, and then we just perpetuate that narrative in society, and then it keeps us in conflict with each other ultimately. And so when I see something now, it's like, well, wait a minute, what's actually happening here? And I think that where I'm at philosophically, if I try to not make it about Will Smith, because I don't really have a opinion on him as a person, and I don't feel like I should have an opinion on him as a person. It's not my place to. Mm-hmm. And whatever's personal between him and Chris Rock, they're two individuals who I don't know personally. and I don't really want to have an opinion on. What I would have an opinion on is this is a public show.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple things for me. Number one, it's a public show. It's a family show. And when you become a celebrity, it's like you're royalty in the United States. It's unlike any other country. When you are a celebrity, our celebrities are our royalty. And we expect them to behave as such. And so you get paid zillions of dollars to do very little work. And look, I'm a performer. I've been an actor. I'm a musician. I can sit here all day and talk about how difficult it is to practice your craft, how hard it is, how competitive the environment. I can sit there and support the craft all day.
Mm.
But unlike every other industry has kind of this spectrum of income where you're entry level, you earn a little bit more, you earn a little bit more, and then maybe one day you're kind of leading an organization or you're at the top of your field. With entertainment, it's a jump. It doesn't. You could be skill wise at the top of your field and getting paid nothing. Everybody's getting paid nothing, and then there's this leap, and you're treated like a god among men. You're a celebrity. Everybody does everything for you. You're making insane amounts of money. And so there's a little responsibility that goes with that. And that little responsibility that goes with that, maintaining your composure, being a role model, And so here you have somebody that a friend of mine, within a couple of days of that event, sent me a video. It was Will Smith doing, there were this series of commercials called The More You Know. And it was like a slogan, the more you know. And it was just little bits of wisdom for the people to watch this commercial, the more you know. And it's Will Smith, and he's talking about how everything can be handled with your mouth instead of your fists, that a smart, wise person can handle conflict with their words instead of with their fists. So it's like, how ironic. It's like, come on, man. Like, that's the Will Smith that I knew growing up.
Yeah.
A real good guy.
Yeah.
He was in good favor kind of in all households, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's just a really good-natured, wholesome man. And I thought, wow, who's that guy, on a public show that's watched by families, parents, children. That to me was just like, hey, look, I've gotten plenty pissed off in my life. I know a handful of people who I'd like to slap upside the head more than once.
Yeah.
On a good day.
And that's on a good day.
That's on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a certain level of behavior when the cameras are rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. It was kind of a shock, as you said, that the way he presented himself so far was this amazing, knowledgeable, sweet guy, and he was very out of character. So, okay, that's that. Let's get into our other topic, which is about soulmates and twin flames. And what is the difference between soulmate and twin flames, and what are the signs? Because oftentimes we're confused. Like, is this a soulmate relationship that I have, or is this a twin flames? So what are the signs for me to know which one is it? Do you want to talk about it, or you want me to start, Jeff?
I'll start because I think you're going to have more to say.
Okay.
So I'll kind of start with my little bit. I did a little bit of, what I like to do best, which is to research things. Mm-hmm. And I did a little research into the origin of soulmate and the origin of twin flame, because I thought, these are words that, not so much twin flame. I think that's kind of a newer thing entering people's lexicon, but soulmate's been a pretty casual term that has entered a lot of lexicon for people's lexicon for a long time. And we kind of throw it around casually. We throw it around seriously. When it comes to love, it's what we say we're looking for. What does that even mean? And then there's this newfangled twin flame. And for some people, it's not newfangled. For some people, it's been around a long time. But, so here's what I found is that a couple of different things. Is that both of them seem to have the same origin. There's a little bit of an idea of that there's a soul, and then this soul is kind of cut into, split, and then now there's two souls out in the world, incarnated in various places. And so the idea is that and that's the same origin for both of them. And it's almost like, I even was able to research it as far back as into religious texts of saying like, a soulmate or a twin flame was like God separating humans from God. It was like now we have our separation from God. And so it would be like God is our soulmate and God is our twin flame, right? And Jesus was a twin flame because he showed up to challenge everybody. It's like, that's heavy. That's real heavy. I found some research that dated twin flames back to like Vedic texts. I mean, it's like, there's some pretty heavy stuff out there.
Wow, you did your homework. I'm very impressed.
So what does that mean to any of us? Really, what does it mean to any of us? Because that's what matters, is where are we at now? And I think that we need to be a little careful because those two words are being thrown around a lot. And in my opinion, and this is, to me, it just occurs as obvious, is that most people use the word soulmate romantically. Mm-hmm. That's not the case today. And I think you might be part of that new way of looking at it, where people are looking at a soulmate as just someone that you have a very unique relationship with, and we can elaborate on that in a bit. But historically, most people would say, like, romantically, they're looking for their soulmate, which is their perfect match. Now is, again, it's evolving from that into love, but twin flame's kind of the same thing, where I can't seem to get a straight story from more spiritual people, such as, and I'm not saying I've got this from you, but people in this industry where people say, well, a twin flame, that's more romantic, or a twin flame, that's not romantic at all. Now, what I would say when I read about what people tend to think about them, and when I say people, I mean kind of the community, the kind of spiritual community, I can kind of get, whether I want to believe it or not, I get the theory behind what a twin flame is, which is someone that shows up to kind of be your mirror and challenge all that you're not. I've had that person in my life, maybe more than once, but I can think of one person very specifically. And you get this intense attraction to that person, but you don't necessarily often end up in a relationship with that person. They're there to really, like, again, be a mirror. This person was very much like a mirror to me and caused me to question all that I was as a human being. And everything that I kind of read on twin flames kind of points to that this person's there to shake things up, stir things up, cause you great pain and distress and as a catalyst for your growth. That's pretty intense, whether that's real or not. With a soulmate, I tend to like to stick. I mean, I have a friend that started calling me soulmate pretty early on, and it's like, okay, we can call each other soulmate as friends, like, but and I know people that do that, like they look at like soul siblings, soul brothers and sisters, and I tend to kind of stick to a little bit more of a romantic idea with soulmate. I do see it as somebody that's like a match, where the twin flame might be there for your growth, as a catalyst for your growth, to cause you like conflict, that the soulmate's not there to cause you conflict. That person's there to kind of really match with you and be like, you're finding somebody that you feel like you've known before.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the furthest I'll go, and then I'll turn it over to you, is if you remember, we went to a dinner down in Oceanside or Carlsbad.
Yeah.
And on the way home, we were listening to some pretty crazy recording that this guy had like transcribed. It was like this guy who claims to be in like this elite family that's ruling the planet. And it was really the transmission, right? It was like the transcription of the transmission. And in that, the guy was talking about the idea of reincarnation. And he said, you know, we have this thing called this veil of forgetfulness. And so we are this soul in this area that we would refer to as heaven, and it's happy and it's full of love. It knows who it is. And it sends itself to earth to be incarnated, to deal with things, to face challenges. And while here, that's what we do. We face challenges, we grow and whatnot. And that's all designed by us. We actually set the game difficulty, so to say. It's like you're going to go play the easy game. You're going to go play the hard game, you know, the real hard game. And once we kind of die, in between incarnations, we go back to heaven and we kind of rejoin with our other souls. So in that way, you could almost see the idea of soulmate taking on a little bit more context and shape, where it's like, oh, I know, that's right, I know who you were. I knew who you were. But, you know, I had that veil of forgetfulness because I was in my growth period or challenge period or whatever. But that's kind of, I think, what I have to say about that is challenge versus kind of somebody that versus compliment, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if we look into philosophy and that stuff, it goes way, way back to the Greeks and the Greek gods and stuff that humans used to be having four hands. Everything was double, like we have two faces. There were four hands, there were 4 feet, and we were not straight up, but kind of like animals down and that stuff. And I was like, what is that about? Okay. But I thought the idea would have been great. Like, imagine if you and I had four hands, how much more we could handle. And if we had four legs, oh my God, I could be riding a bicycle, maybe also a motorbike at the same time. Anyhow, uh, the way I look at the soulmate and twin flames, because I know even in the spiritual field, um, people have different opinion the way they explain this. Now, this is my personal opinion. I think soulmates are, we don't have just one soulmates. We can have many, many soulmates. And soulmates are kind of like, we are taking the same class, we're sitting in the same class, and we are best friends, we are best buddy. It's much lighter, and we help one another in a more loving, compassionate way to help each other learn our lessons. Now, as I'm thinking, like, your soulmate can be your mother. Your soulmate could also be a intimate, sexual, loving relationship, and it could be also your pet. It could be anything. So is the relationship and the way the soulmates are engaging with one another is much more lighthearted. It's like we're here together and we're sitting in the same class. So if you don't know, if you don't get math, which I never did, my soulmate would not make fun of me, wouldn't get vicious or put me down or anything. My soulmate will help me to the max to teach me how to learn about math and how to pass my exams. Um, on the contrary, I think twin flames is only one. And I also go further and I say maybe at each lifetime, we don't even face our twin flames. Maybe I meet my twin flame on this lifetime, or maybe another time, maybe two lifetime passes and I don't really see my twin flame. So, twin flame to me is that fiery, and I think a lot of time the invitation that we're sending out for our twin flames is that I have to be on a higher grade of awareness, because when the twin flames comes, it could be romantic and it could not be romantic, and it goes to the point that I could find somebody that, oh my god, this person is my twin flame, and is just the opposite side of the coin. Like whatever my shadows are, this twin flame is bringing it up, or whatever I like, those quality or attributes that I like about another human being, or I like to be, that I don't feel I'm having it right now, the twin flame has that. So it's a huge differences between the way we're looking at each other, the way we view things. And twin flames are the fastest crash courses that we can take with another human being. They're necessary, not loving, even though it could be at the beginning when we send the invitation, we are urging to meet our other half all of our lives. But the minute this twin flame shows up as for our invitations, and it could be very romantic and physically, we have really high chemistry with one another and all this thing. But very soon, all of this loving, passionate chemistry, it turns out to be really ugly, because the twin flames, like I said, is the part that comes in the shortest time and say, ready or not, I'm here. And it's like not just one class, but many classes, just like in the shortest time, we're going to teach one another everything that we need to learn. And it's not going to be in a pretty way. It's going to be probably a lot of arguments, a lot of discussions, and also a lot of hurting. We really hurt one another through the process of learning our lessons. And once a twin flame comes in, if it shows up in my life, it doesn't mean that we're going to end up together for the rest of our lives. It could be that a twin flame shows up in a very short time. We're hurting each other, we're teaching each other, we're seeing how we are not compatible at every or each areas. They basically bringing the other side that I'm not. And with twin flames, I feel that the minute we meet our twin flames, we just know. We just know this person, like, I really know you. But then we don't really know where or how we know each other. And oftentimes it could be that the twin flame shows up ahead of time, like the preview of the movie, that we keep seeing this image, we keep having this deja vu that we're meeting this person, or we are with this someone, or we have dream about them. And once they show up, I have this feeling that, oh my God, it's like I know this person for my entire life, even though I never met them before. And that our relationship is like I said, at the beginning could be, um, because let me backtrack. Let's face it, if the twin flame is someone who's coming to take me through a series of really hard, tough classes in the shortest time, then probably I would assume once we're sending out that invitation for the twin flame to show up, the twin flame could be extremely attractive at the beginning, because the more attractive we are to this person, the more chemistry we feel we have with this person is pulling us more deep into our lessons. And so I did have a few soulmates, even romantic relationships. Ryan was one of them. Ryan was my best friend. We were the best buddies. We talk about everything. But in the meantime, we were very compassionate and loving towards one another. We never put each other's down. We would bring the issue, we would discuss about it. And in a very soft, gentle way, we were going through our classes. And I have a twin flame relationship, and I know that twin flames, it's like from the morning that you wake up with your twin flame, you have to watch out constantly, because there are a lot of emotions that are involved, and the twin flames knows your weaknesses really well, and the twin flames is the best person to keep pushing your buttons all day long. So that's my definition of the differences on soulmate and twin flames.
I'm right. I would agree with that. Yeah, I feel kind of the same. So then, the challenge is that we occur as powerless to the twin flame. That's the challenge. So this person shows up in our life, and we're just almost toxically intoxicated to this person, and we can't help it. And it's like, that's the point, right?
Yeah,
That's
and Jeff,
point.
is like the love is so strong, that is the fire is so high that you're kind of burning into this power of love. Like the love is so intense. Therefore, because you love this person so much, and you're thinking that, oh my God, all my life I was waiting for you to show up, the passion and the intensity of love makes us much more sensitive towards our twin flames. So anything that they say, it impacts us like 10 times more. We're constantly watching, like, we really want to be with them. In the same time, they're annoying the shit out of us because we want to be with this person, and we're so sensitive, and it's like our lens is constantly on them. What are they doing? What are they saying? Why are they saying this? And with twin flames, the deal is that we never forget what they say and what they do to us. Like with soulmates, you and I get into an argument, we have a fight or something. Few minutes later, we talk about it, we resolve it, you get over it, I get over it. With twin flames, it's not like that. With twin flames, you will remember every single thing. It's kind of like your brain has taken pictures, filmed the whole arguments, all the ups and downs, and all of this thing, and it never fades away. You constantly have all of this in your hard drive. Remember what you did last week when you said this and this and this and this, and then the other person, our twin flame, might say, no, I don't think it was really like that. Yes, it was like that. Let me remind you that you woke up and you took 4 steps to the bathroom and you washed your face, and while you were washing your face, you turned and we had a glance at the second, and you didn't give me the look that was loving and I was expecting. So that's also because so much emotions are involved, and we all, as humans, we are emotional. So all of this is affecting us much, much more too. Back to you, Jeff.
Well, the thing about that, I have a couple thoughts. I mean, one is it's almost like a drug, It's like we talk about drugs and whether certain substances are habit forming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like an instantly addictive or habit forming person.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always try to do is I've always approached kind of spiritual concepts through science and reason. And that, everybody approaches the spectrum their own way. And that's how I approach the spectrum, is what can be explained with science, what can be explained with psychology, and then what's left. And I'm very careful to not, this might not be fun, because a lot of people like to look at things and have a lot of fun, but I don't put a lot of stake initially into like zodiacs and all that stuff, even though, I can sit here and say, well, I'm a Sagittarius and I totally behave like one. I really do. But I don't know if that's inherent in our DNA or if that's conditioned behavior, because it just could be, zodiac signs could be something that we just start to condition people since they're babies. And so everybody that's born at a certain time of year grows up thinking that they're supposed to be a certain way, so they become that way. And with the idea of twin flame, especially in soulmates, because they're such powerful words for such powerful relationships, that I try to think, well, there's people that are very far on one side of the spirituality spectrum that are just like, oh, soulmates, yes, and twin flames, yes, and everything spiritual. And then there's people that are just on the far atheistic side. They're like, you're crazy. There's no such thing as zodiacs. It doesn't mean anything. And like soulmates doesn't mean anything. Twin flames, that's just a make-believe mumbo jumbo. Okay, so where's the truth? And one of the things that I try to do to help us, because it is such a painful process, is look at, well, there is this kind of collision of romance and desire, usually, that goes along with all those lessons. That's the addiction. Because those of us, when we meet somebody that we could consider to be our twin flame, we have this, generally it's a sexual romantic addiction to that person, even if we're not getting it, even if we never get it with that person. We're just like that, we get hooked and almost addicted to this person. And it's like our rational brain is like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you, they're just a human being, And so it's tough, because when you look at what I look at is the levers of attraction, because there are levers of attraction, and it's not a mystery. It's real obvious stuff, but people don't talk about it a lot. But there are just very practical levers of attraction. And if these levers are switched, and it's not on or off, it's kind of like 0 to 100, it's like, it's just a meter. And depending on where that meter is, we're going to feel a certain thing for a person. And it's crazy about all of this is that often when we determine that we're let's say in love with somebody, we make that determination. It's like, I'm in love with this person. It's a realization or a determination or both. I'm in love with this person. And then our brain filters that person through that lens, through that filter of I'm in love with this person. And so everything about them changes. Now, what's interesting is that when that happens, a person occurs to be at like 100 on these levers. It's like everything is off the charts, right? And with a twin flame, one of the things that's challenging is it's like you can look at this person and look at these levers and go, I can logically, analyze that they are not 100. They're not 100 here. They're not 100 here. They're not 100 here. They're not 100 here. But man, it feels like they're 1,000 across the board. It just feels like everything's just off the charts and you can't even help it. So ultimately, I think that I guess the best thing we can do, it feels like there's nothing we can do, because it feels like all the spiritual growth that you might do, if because of the romantic nature, all of the education and romantic growth and attraction growth that we can do, it's like none of it matters, because you're just going to meet that person that, again, that's the whole definition, that challenges all that you are, throws you off your game, turns your world upside down, makes you question everything. How do you prepare for that? You don't. You just deal with it when it shows up,
Yeah. So, maybe some of my followers don't know yet, but you met Max, and before I moved in with Max, I came for a month. Like every weekend, I came to his place and spent 3-4 days to see how it feels. Because for my profession and my work, I'm so involved with doing so many lives and webinars and sessions and all of the assistants that I'm dealing with and all that. So I wanted to see how is this a possibility when Max asked me to move in with him. And I came those few weeks, and it was kind of okay, because at the beginning we set up the rules. So by me knowing like who he is, where he's coming from, by us listening to each other's childhood stories, that I know everything about Max now from the time he was a child. How was his relationship with his mother? How was his relationship with his brother? How was his relationships with sister and brother? I learned a lot. And he also heard my story. So, for instance, Max has been grown up in a family that were very entertaining. And according to him, mom was very OCD, to the point that everything has to shine 24 hours. And the slightest dirt or something would get her triggered and she would become upset. So now that I know this about him, and I know that obviously these are all the behaviors that he has learned and became a part of him. I know, because I have also been an ex OCD. I know how it feels. And you and I had this conversation that I said, oh my God, Max is like so OCD, is like he's seeing slightest thing, like when you wash your hand or brush your teeth, you have to have a towel next to you to dry out all the little drops that's on the counter, on the sink. And you also have, with that towel, you have to wipe up the knob of the. Okay. So at the beginning, he came to me and he says, you're making up a lot of mess. And we had a discussion about this. And by sitting together and talking about this subject, okay, I know that you're OCD. I have been in OCD. I know how it goes. And you said something that was really good, that you said, you have also been in a relationship with someone who was OCD, and you said the person that hurts in that relationship is the one. You recall that? Yeah.
Mhm.
So that could have been an issue, but then I realized that I am dealing with someone who is OCD, and in order for me not to trigger him, I gotta go out of my way, because I always felt previously, I thought, okay, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I wash the dishes every day, I vacuum here and there, but every 2 weeks, a maid will come and they will clean up everything. So that was my idea. I have work, my work is so important. Why should I spend so much time in a day to spend on the house and cleaning? And that's a lot of work to keep the house clean 24 hours, right? So I changed myself to come from a place of what's important to him. And once we acknowledged that, we talked about it, things changed. Other thing is Mac's sister and brother, that they both passed away. They were in music, hugely involved with music. And as you saw, Max has like so many records and all this thing. So a part of his upbringing has been music. And when we sit down to have dinner, the music is on 24. And sometimes for me, coming from a place of quietness and silence as much as possible, at the beginning, it was like, do we have to listen? The music has to go in the background like 24 and really loud. So that was another issue, right? And again, when we talked about this, and I understand that he is coming from a brother who was a musician that has passed away, from a sister who has introduced music to Max since he was 4 years old. Music is a huge part, and also entertainment. He was telling me that when we were a child and guests were coming, which was very frequent, the three kids has to clean up and keep everything. He was telling me this last night. He said they used to have a carpet that was this thick in the 70s and that stuff. And before the guests came, they had to vacuum and make sure that the carpet was all fluffy and there wasn't a spot of walking to this extent.
Mm.
Right? So when I know this now, I know that being tidy, being clean, music, entertainment is a huge part. And for me, it's like and he loves to, he's a very extrovert, so am I. But I could be very introvert and I can switch to be extremely extrovert. He's all extrovert. So I understand the differences, that when he's inviting friends over, from 2 days ahead of time, he has done his shopping, he done his cooking, and it's got to be, this is going to be on the barbecue, this is going to go there, and the table set has to be like you're in five-star restaurant. And if you put a wine glass there and his couple of spot look on it, he's going to notice that, so he has to wipe that out and everything. To me, when I throw a party, I order a catering. I wouldn't bother myself with, giving 2 days of my time to shop and to think about what I'm going to. I would just call the catering company and I say, can you deliver this and this and this? And it was done, right? So, what I'm saying is that how we can resolve, even though we are noticing that we are in a twin flames situation, I felt that number one, really listening to the other person, knowing their whole story and knowing where they're coming from, also knowing what triggers them. Because at the beginning, when Max will become edgy or something, instead of me butting into him that he's edgy right now or he's angry right now or something, I told him, I said, how about whenever something comes up, don't swallow it. Whatever comes up, name it. So he learned during the time that if I did something or something showed up that he created, triggered him from his old behavior, number one, now he's so much more aware. Oh, that's the old behavior. And he calls it. He said, this is coming from the old behavior. And he names it. I'm irritated. And the minute he announced that I'm angry or I'm irritated, then I asked him, I said, would you like to talk about it? And he's very open to it. He said, yes. He sit down and he said, is this and this and that. And then once calmly, quietly, really thoroughly, having eye contact, not doing anything else, I listen and I say, I hear you. I hear that you're angry. I hear that you're irritated. What has made you irritated? And once he see that calm side from me, he immediately become calm and more conscious. And I don't have to even tell him anything. He realizes, oh, this is coming from the old behavior. I got it. I learned. So it's like 24 lessons that are coming up. And we made a deal that whatever happens, whatever made us upset or triggered us, we don't leave it alone. We talk about it right away and we resolve it. So something else is, I have absolutely no values for material things. And since I moved to his place, I did a couple of things like, you know, I'm burning sage. This is really funny, guys. I burn sage every morning, sometimes in the afternoon stuff. So one day, as I'm burning sage, a small pieces fell on his carpet and it burned a little bit of the carpet. And I didn't really see it because we had this discussion the other day. I said to him, I said, look, when I'm burning sage is because I'm in a different zone, because I'm picking up the energy. Oh, there's a different energy that is not very soothing or calming, or there is this vicious energy here. And in that zone that I'm picking up this, I want to sage. But why? Because I'm picking up the energy. Where is it coming from? Did I get it? Did I remove it? Is this stuff? I'm not operating in the word here. Therefore, it doesn't get to my head that maybe when I'm burning sage, I have to hold something underneath it. And because before I didn't have to do that. So once he noticed that the carpet was burned a little bit, he got really frustrated. And he said to me, do you know this carpet was given to me by my parents, my mother? All of a sudden, it clicked. So much attachment, so much memory, so much the value of it. Now, if I come and tell him, listen, I don't give a hoot about material thing, and I'm very careless about, because previously, before this laptop, my other laptop, it was at the sink where I was washing and the water got into it and it got water damage. And when I took it to fix it, they were like, no, this is really gone because it's water damage. And so I had to buy another laptop, right? So that comes from my lack of sensitivity, caring, valuing material thing. Now, on the other hand, he values everything, because every single piece of furniture, he has been looking for it. He has been uh, going through what is the best option. He spent times and energy. And this is our differences. This could be a huge argument. In this case, I apologized and I said, "You're absolutely right. I have been careless. I promise from now on, I'm going to be a lot more mindful about what I'm doing. I can't all of a sudden change myself to really value material thing. But since this is really important to him, then I have to change myself, not coming from my place that I don't value material thing, but rather come from his place that how he values everything. And it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. All I'm looking at it is the way I'm looking at it. Okay, if I'm claiming that I'm very sensitive, sensitivity means, if I'm not a narcissist, that I'm very caring and conscious about what other person is interesting, caring, and loving. So for that, we never had any argument anymore regarding the place wasn't tidy, me doing something that is careless, that his meaning is going to be, you didn't care about my thing. But I also talk to him about where I'm coming from. And during this process, both of us has changed. And he got to a point that this house is so important to me, to a point that we laugh about it and he's like, it's only a house, you can burn it up all you want. It's only this, you can do whatever you want. So he has also changed. Both of us are changed. Does that make sense, Jeff?
It does. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I also I got a pretty funny picture in my head because you're just like, I'm burning the place down, but I'm just like in my spot of like, I don't know, I'm picking up on the energy. Like I'm somewhere else. The place is burning down in flames. It's like, I don't know. I'm just.
I know, but you understand.
I get it. Yeah.
You understand Max really well because you also coming from the same place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think even though we attract our twin flames, if we know the game, if we know the lessons, we can overcome it. Because after all, I want you guys to ask this question. Do I want to be in a relationship that is a soulmate relationship and I'm totally comfortable with it? And the size of the lesson is smaller, but I'm taking little bit every single day, and that's how much I can handle it. Do you want to be in this relationship, or do you want, by hearing all this thing, knowing that twin flames could be devastating, living with them, being with them, all this stuff, but knowing that the lessons are so much bigger and you have so much growth? What would you pick? What would you pick, Jeff?
That's a tough one. You know.
Do you want the lessons to be comfortable and small? Because yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that like the lessons not being being uncomfortable, being fast, that might be necessary, and it sounds real good on paper, but we only are aware of our one life. There might be other lives, but in those lives, like it's like you and me today. if we're an incarnation of multiple lives, we don't know those other lives. We only know this one.
Mm-hmm.
And growth is important. But there's a certain level of comfort that we seek. And there's a certain level of suffering that, we can only tolerate. And at a certain point, one of the things that I'm very afraid of is that extreme experiences cause very quick wiring of our neural networks in our brain. And that's not spirituality, that's science. And when we have a really extreme situation, we actually manifest our reality often through our neural connections in our brain. And so if we have a very negative, an experience that occurs as negative, and it's very extreme, and we wire a neural network to that, we're in danger of repeating that negative experience over and over and over again.
Yep.
And that's not positive to me at all. And it's I don't know how to mitigate that without a coach, without somebody being there side by side with you, because, and I say as a coach, not as a person as a position of weakness. It's like the top athletes in the world all have coaches, because the coaches can see from the outside the play-by-play that's going on that maybe the players cannot see because they're on the field playing. And that often can happen. And I feel like there's that in my life. I feel like, there's some very, with the good, obviously it's not like life's all bad, but specifically speaking about the bad, that there are neural networks formed in my brain that I wish were not formed. And in a lot of ways, those are formed. Some of them are formed because of this, let's say the twin flame that I believe, if such a thing exists, was that person in my life. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of suffering. And so, am I able to walk away from or grow out of the experience with that person relatively unscathed, all transformed and grown up and matured in some way? Or are you going to walk away from that experience traumatized? And that's the challenge. So I think that the passion and intensity of that twin flame is something that we all desire. That's why it's the allure of it. That's why it's addictive.
Yeah.
Because it's that intensity. And why can't we have that intensity? And yet, there are people in my life, male and female, kind of more platonically first, even if there's a romantic element to it, but platonically first, where when I'm with that person, we're just at ease. Mm-hmm. And there's something beautiful about that. It's not intense at all. It's just easy. Mm-hmm. And comfortable. And isn't that wonderful? It's like going to the amusement park and riding a roller coaster is really exciting.
Jeff, we can hear you. Something happened.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I think a call tried to come in and it interrupted our live. How rude.
Rude.
But I was saying, how rude. But I was saying that if we go to the amusement park and we ride a roller coaster, that's really exciting. It's really intense. But do we want our life to be that roller coaster? It's a little intense. It's almost too much.
Yeah.
And so the work is that, it can be just as fun to have a nice relaxing day. It's sunny, it's breezy. Like right now, I'm in the shade. It's a warm day. It's going to be hot later, but it's warm. There's a breeze. I'm in the shade. It's nice. I'm on the phone with you, and so you think, well, okay, well, the work is how can you I think it's probably easier to bring the excitement into an otherwise calm and comfortable relationship than it is to bring the calm into the exciting relationship. That's what I think. Because if something's a tornado, man, it's just going to be a tornado. And I think all your efforts are just going to, get thrown everywhere. But,
Yeah, I don't agree with you there, Jeff, because I think, like I was talking before, if I'm really conscious, which is the general lesson. The general lesson is that, do I live my life consciously or unconsciously? So if I'm living my life consciously and I make that choice, therefore I can make any bumpy, rocky things that gets thrown at me. I know once I'm conscious, I can handle it pretty much with ease. So it depends on how aware, how equipped am I, how much have I done as the basic self work, how much do I know myself, the question of who am I, have I figured out really who I am? If I do, then it shouldn't be a roller coaster.
Yeah, but what we're saying, the definition, if you believe in such a thing, the definition of twin flame is it doesn't matter how self-aware you are. It doesn't matter how transformed you are. It doesn't matter how prepared you are. None of that's gonna matter because that person's gonna completely cause you havoc. It's gonna completely turn your world upside down and question everything you know. So it doesn't matter if you're prepared. That's like saying I'm prepared. It's like we live in Los Angeles, right? There's the San Andreas Fault. You could say you're prepared for the earthquake.
Mm.
But it doesn't matter if you say you're prepared for the earthquake. That earthquake's going to happen. And it's going to wreck your place. It's going to wreck your life. And then you're just going to have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's just the way it is. It's like saying you're prepared for a tsunami. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
No such thing. So that's, and in a way that might be a good analogy, is that a twin flame is kind of like the equivalent of a natural disaster, but for your spirit. There's no such thing as prepared. There's no such thing as aware, because no matter where you are on your path, that natural disaster is going to hit you there.
And how you get affected by that is very different. Today, I'm looking at myself. When I had my previous relationships with soulmates, when it wasn't really that intense, but because I was so deeply asleep and it was so much like about me, what they're doing it intentionally, they're doing it, why don't they understand me, and blah blah blah. I turned in a way the soulmate relationship, I mistake it by a twin flame in the past when I wasn't awake. Like my the first love of my life, Eric, the French boy, he was fabulous. I mean, nothing that during the 5.5 years relationship, we only had one argument at the beginning. And that's pretty amazing. 5.5 years, no fight. And we got to a point that he said, Sudi, do we really love each other? Because we never argue anymore. But it wasn't because I was so aware. It was because he was constantly feeding my ego. When I threw a tantrum, he didn't got involved to make it an argument. He came from a place of pure and total love. But I was in such a bad place with myself that it didn't matter. I would constantly find things that I was upset about or bugged me, or I was unhappy because I moved to Europe and that was constantly a mistake because I didn't love Europe. I wanted to come back to LA and da 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 da. So it was always all this thing coming. So what I'm saying is that was a soulmate relationship, and it was a very easy one. But because I wasn't awake and I wasn't where I am today, mistakenly, I turned the soulmate relationship to a twin flame. And then after that, with the Norwegian guy, that was a disaster. And what 7.5 years I lived with my Norwegian boyfriend, and we were in a constant argument. True that he wanted marriage and like having kids and family, and I told him from the top, that's not who I am. And he was thinking that he gonna make me to become the woman who is valuing family, raising children and all that. So his anger that couldn't make me to become who I was, and my fight of I'm never going to be who you want, you cannot change me, it was a disaster. But if I had the knowledge that I have today, I wouldn't turn those soulmate relationship into a twin flame. It was where I was. And now today, because I am awake, I'm not going into those roller coaster. I'm looking at every time he ride up, I meet him on top and I see exactly where he's coming from. And by understanding that where he's coming from, and by having total love and compassion for this human being through a lens of no judgment. Whatever he does, I meet him, he goes up, I meet him on top, and I said, I see you, I'm hearing you. If you need to add more to it, if you want to talk more for me to have even more understanding, please go ahead. So that up doesn't ride into a higher up, it comes down. And although it's not going to stay, we know nothing is going to stay. Every day is changing. We're having a bad day, and then the next day we're having a calm, really loving day, and then the next day is argument. So we know all these things, but we are not helping the roller coaster to continue. And this is all about where I am with myself. And sometimes I laugh about it, and in a joking way, if Max is upset or he's pissed off or something, he calls it an anger, or he names it anger, irritation. And I jokingly laugh about it, and I said, I see it, I hear it, but I choose to be in peace. At the beginning, even this word that I choose to be in peace and not get involved could also add up to irritation. But now it's like when I say, oh, I see it, I hear you, I really feel you, but I choose to be in peace, he starts laughing. And he says, so do I. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't totally. And something else that I want to add here is that oftentimes people mistake the type of relationship. Like I said, you could be in a soulmate relationship, but from a level of understanding or awareness or how conscious you are, you can turn the soulmate relationship mistakenly and think this is a twin flame, and vice versa. Sometimes you are in a twin flame relationship, but because you're coming from such a place of wholeheartedness and understanding and compassion, you can also turn the twin flame relationship into a soulmate relationship. That's all I have to say. So
I got all of it. I actually need to get going.
So do I.
It was great to chat with you. It's been a while.
I know. So yeah, we catch up to do some bike rides soon, maybe Saturday or Sunday.
I think that'd be great.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Love
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay, everybody. So let me know, was this live helpful to you? What do you guys think? What's your take on it? I have it. Okay. Sona's dear, you're asking a lot of questions that is not related to the topic today. I would recommend that you come to my webinar on Saturday. Please join my seminar on Saturday, and we're going to talk about all of these things, because guilt is it's a very big topic, and I have done lives on the topic of guilt. And especially on my Saturday webinar, I devoted maybe not just one time, twice, to talk about guilt. So please join my Saturday. Mariam wants to, she's sending a request. Let me see if Mariam wants to come up and talk. Mariam John, I accepted your request if you want to come up. Sarah said, I really enjoyed this. Hi.
Hi, Sudi.
How are you, Lavi?
I'm good. Thanks.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm amazingly good. What's up?
Perfect. Regarding to the subject you was talking, I come to this conclusion. Correct me if I'm wrong. My conclusion from the talk, I joined a little bit late, but my understanding was with thinking, stop, take tatsukushi. Think, stop, and silence.
Thought, cut, silence.
Yeah, thought, cut, silence. With this approach, do you think we can, if we are in a toxic relationship and we can't find the reason why we are there, or the logical reason behind that is like you should not be in that relationship, but there are some reason which is not, it's more emotional, and you can't find the reason behind that. With this approach, can we solve this situation? Can we solve this problem?
Okay. Every time I'm doing a session, Mariam, or I'm responding to a question, the first thing that I have to be aware, the questionnaire is at one level of consciousness. According to the level of how much do you know and at what level of consciousness that you are, then the way I respond will be different. I'm assuming, since you know about thought cut silence, which is one of my practices, that you have been following me for a while, so you have the basic of it. Let's assume.
Sudi, you forgot me. I'm in your workshop Saturday.
I haven't forgotten about you, Lavi. But what I'm saying is that I'm assuming you could be on my workshop, but everyone who are on my workshop, they still are on a different level. Just because you are on my workshop doesn't mean that you're at the highest level of consciousness, right? Okay. So you said, if we are in a toxic relationship, before I name this relationship toxic, who is the one who are experiencing the toxicity of this relationship? Who is the one, or what is it that experiencing toxic?
So it's logical mind, it's the system, it's the logical mind calculating, and because of reason, which is comes from the logical mind. So mostly it's logical mind, but it's a little bit emotion as well. Because when I stop thinking and I try to be, yeah, I can say system. It's logical
Okay.
mind.
So basically, right now, when I ask you who or what is it that's experiencing toxicity in a relationship, the awareness, I ask you to bring the awareness here. Once you let the awareness shine on this topic, you realize the one who is judging the relationship as being toxic is the mind, ego. Right?
But I had a question. When you try to not follow your ego in your relationship, when you try just only follow your heart, follow your emotion,
Mariam, I got what you're saying. I got what. Are you ready to hear me? I got what. I know where you're going. Where you're getting mixed up is that you're assuming that you're coming from your heart. And I have to break the news to you that no, you are not coming from your heart. You're still coming from the ego mind. So if you're going to be, Mariam, relax and stay with me. Let whatever information come to you sink in. There's no use for you to start talking because I know where you're going and I'm trying to help you. So relax and breathe. Just think that there's nothing you have to say. You just have to be able to hear what I'm saying. Okay? When I'm under assumption that I'm coming from my heart and I'm extremely sensitive, if you were coming from your heart and soul doesn't have judgment. So where is the toxicity if you're coming from the heart? Who is judging the relationship as toxic? Now you can answer me.
expecting respect.
You didn't hear me, Mariam. You didn't hear me. You didn't hear me. Can you repeat what I said?
Can you, if you don't mind, could you please repeat your question?
If you're not going to be present, this conversation is going to be useless. And you're not present. So what's the first step?
Okay, I'm present now.
Who is present now?
The consciousness you asking.
So the conscious, now you're aware that you weren't conscious and the consciousness or awareness came, now you're aware. You said that you think that you're coming from your heart. And I said, that's not where you're coming from. The first step is you have to realize, am I coming from ego mind or am I coming from heart and soul? Because your ego mistakenly telling you that you're coming from the heart, you don't realize that this is the ego that is telling you you're coming from the heart. And I said, if you were coming from the heart, there were absolutely no judgment. So by you saying, what do you do when you're in a toxic relationship? I'm telling you, The one who is judging is the ego mind, not the heart. So you're not coming from the heart, you're coming from the mind ego. This is the first step for you to realize. Are you with me? Okay. Now that you realize how at any second we can get tricked by the mind ego, once I realize that I am aware of it, the next step is your ego is saying, I am looking for respect. And the soulmate in my life right now is not giving me the respect. And I'm saying to you, the relationship, the judgment of it being toxic is coming from the ego mind. And if you can't realize who is the one who's judging and separate yourself from it, your ego today is going to say, this relationship sucks because I want respect. I'm being extremely respectful, but my partner isn't. The following day is going to be, these are what's the most important to me. These are what I value in a relationship, but my partner is not coming from the same place. In this situation, when I'm in a relationship, it is because what are relationships? Relationships are invitation for us to get in the class. It's not about the guy, it's not about the girl. It's about what class, what lesson am I in? Now tell me, what class are you in?
Oh, yes. I was thinking about the what class. In a less than a second, when I met him in my friend's party, I asked the consciousness, I asked, what you gonna teach me with this person? You're gonna teach me something in less than a second, in a millisecond. I was like, you're gonna teach me something with this person.
Great. And what is the lesson?
There are a lot, like lots of area.
Lots of what?
Lots of area, lots of subject I need to work
Okay.
on.
Different classes, name them.
The main one, you're not lonely. You because I always said all is one in talking, but being and deep down feeling all is one, and deep down we are connected with everyone. But at the same time, you feeling you are separated. I mean, the ego. And one of the lessons is for me, said to me, Mariam, you say you are one, but deep down you don't believe it. You have to resolve this pattern, this belief. That's one of them. That's one of the main one. And feeling worthy and feeling lonely. These two subjects, these two areas.
If I heard you right, did you say unworthy?
Yeah.
And what else?
Lonely. You're not lonely.
You feeling lonely?
At the same time, no, but deep down, sometimes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I said no, but deep down, yes.
People from
I think these two.
Yeah. Martin says lessons. Sana said self-love, self-worth, being enough, self-esteem, unworthy. Okay. So I know by now the majority of us, we have learned something about higher consciousness, that we are one with everything. And I know that majority of us don't really get this concept. And it became to the point that is just a cliche. Something that, oh, I am one with everything. I am got one with the whole universe. I'm a small, it's just a cliche because you're not experiencing it. It's some beautiful word that we learn, but we haven't integrated. We haven't become it. So let that go. That shouldn't be an issue. What I need to concentrate is, okay, what are the classes? Again, you're bringing unworthiness. Okay, great. Who is the one who is translating the character as being unworthy? Who or what is it?
In reality, I do a lot. Like, I do work. I'm independent, and I work.
Mariam, stay with me. Your mind kind of escapes a lot. Try to be mindful of that. What was the question?
I try to answer the question.
What was the question? Forget about the answer. What was the question?
Now I forgot it. Because there is I have a limit on my Instagram. It said 1 hour that you can use the Instagram. It said it's like 4 minutes left for me. I have to, otherwise it's gonna.
Okay. All right. So your phone is spinning, Lovey. Are you back? Okay. I'm going to repeat the question again. By repeating the question again, the consciousness should become aware that I'm not fully present because I have to ask the question again. Okay? So the question was, who is the one who, or what is the one who's experiencing unworthiness? Who is it or what is it?
The system, the logical thinking,
Okay.
the logical reasoning,
the ego mind, right? The ego mind?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So now that you're aware that anything that's being experienced, unworthiness, not being enough, undeserving, lack of self-love, low self-esteem, anything that's being experienced at this moment for me is being experienced through the lens of ego mind. Because by now we all know if we come from heart and soul, we are whole and we are complete. And then we really understood the oneness with everything. So again, once it comes to my attention, that is the ego mind that is experiencing the unworthiness, injustice, being lonely at the time, it's all ego mind. I would say the quickest way to resolve all this, as it has always been my teaching, who am I? Who is the experiencee who is experiencing the reality? Who is creating the reality, even the reality that's been already created is being created by the ego mind. The one who is experiencing it day after day is the ego mind. So the quickest way, wouldn't it be that I realize I am not my thoughts, I am not my feelings, all of these are being created by the thinking machine, and come and sit and do the daily work. I am not the thinker. I am not the one who's even experiencing the feeling. I am the one who is sitting the hawks or ego, who is watching this character from the top with his lens being totally open, and I don't get fooled that I am the character, right?
Yeah.
So
And this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry. Carry on.
So by you being in my webinar, did the consciousness now brought to your attention that the lessons from the webinar hasn't been practiced daily?
Sorry again, I'll interrupt you.
There is the first step is it comes to my awareness that separating myself from the ego mind, knowing the ego mind, accepting it as a part of me, as my shadows, is number one. Secondly, is how often during the day do I choose to be aware and conscious?
I joined to your webinar, the class, the workshop recently. I just been to one session, and the last session.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So my webinar for Razi.
But honestly, I have to say, I have to interrupt you. The webinar quality of the webinar was really, really good for me. Even although I done some mindfulness, I used to deliver mindfulness a little bit to the large group, but your approach, like,
are you saying when you say I used to, do you mean that you were teaching mindfulness to others?
I'm doing my neuroscience, MSc neuroscience at King's College London at the moment, and I used to work with a large international, like a global group, and they used to deliver mindfulness. I was, I was member in that group to deliver mindfulness.
Okay, so you weren't teaching it; you joined the group.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
To help them to deliver the mindfulness, but I wasn't a teacher. Yeah.
I got it. So I totally get it, Lovey. For people who join my webinar, number one and the most important thing is that we choose to make the webinar our priority. Number two is that every single week, because is so much information in each sessions of the webinar, we have to write it down. I told you guys repeatedly, you're going to have to listen to me for 3 to 4 minutes or a paragraph, stop, write it down, and then give it time for digestion. And I keep repeating myself. If you keep on eating and you have a weak digestion tract, you're not helping your digestive by constantly feeding it. It's the same thing, but for awakening or higher consciousness. If you're not giving enough time to digest the material that I'm giving you, which is a lot and is to a higher level, if the digestion is not taking place, there is no use. So I would recommend to start from the first webinar and start writing it. Give yourself 2-3 minutes to digest it. What is she really saying? Am I really getting it? And keep this in mind. The one who is listening and saying, I'm learning, and is saying, this is really useful material, still is ego mind. Is ego mind who wants to understand awakening, enlightenment, and higher consciousness. Okay, Lavi, I see you Saturday and you can ask me more questions, but you need to you really need to write it down and give yourself enough time to digest it. Thank you so much for coming up. Love you, and I
Thank
see
you.
you Friday.
Love you.
Bye,
See
honey.
you.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Hopefully, this live has helped you out. If you haven't subscribed on my YouTube channel, Sudi Burnett English, please do so. And for Razia, who says, where is your workshop? My workshop is online right now, Lavi. If you DM Sahar or whoever is on my page, they're going to guide you about how you can join my Saturday's webinar. Love you all, and I see you next Thursday. Bye bye now. Goodbye, everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye, everyone.